guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today's video I'm doing my labor and delivery story of my daughter Evelyn, who is 8 months old now. This video has been requested by a lot of people, so I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it because as you can see from the title, I was in labor for 26 hours and I pushed for over 2. So this is a really long story, so I'm just going to get to it so this video is not too long. But before I get into this video, I just wanted to say that, you know, my labor story, you know, it was not easy peasy. It was hard, it was rough, but I just wanted to say before I even get into it, I know that there are stories and experiences that are so much worse than mine. Mine is so tiny compared to what some other families and mothers go through. So I just wanted to say, if this video comes off as me just being like, oh my god, I had the worst experience, that's truly not what I'm trying to say. I'm just telling you what exactly happened. And I know that moms go through way worse than I do. And just kudos to all you mamas who give birth out there, you know, people who get medicine and who don't get medicine. Like, you guys are all rock stars. But I just wanted to make sure that I was, you know, clear that I know people have it way worse. And my heart goes out to everybody who has hard deliveries, hard births, and the outcomes are just way worse. But let's just get right into it. So before I actually talk about my actual labor and delivery, when it happened, when she was born, at 34 weeks and 5 days, I woke up in the morning and I wasn't, you know, I woke up and usually when I would wake up, I wouldn't feel her move right away. It would take a little while. That was normal. She was literally usually up all night long and then would sleep most of the day, which is true today. She's not very good at sleeping at night, but she's good at sleeping in the afternoon. So if that happens to you, then your baby's probably gonna end up like that. Anyway, I get up, she's not really moving, not too concerned about it. I do go to the bathroom though, and I noticed that, you know, something wasn't right. You know, what I was seeing was not normal. So I call my doctor and tell them about it. They're like, okay, they were kind of concerned that maybe it was amniotic fluid. So, and I told them she wasn't moving, and then I told them I was also getting really bad Braxton Hicks contractions, which wasn't completely unnormal. I was getting them, but they weren't, I guess, as intense as what they usually were. So they told me to come into the hospital, like right away. They're like, you know, just get here. So Joel's running around the house and he's like, the baby's coming, like the baby's coming, like just being Joel. And I'm like, she's not coming, like we're just going, chill out, we're just going to see what's going on. So we get there and he's, of course, you know, it's about a 40-minute drive to the hospital and he makes it there in about 30. So we get there and they, you know, the entire car ride, I didn't really feel her move. I mean, I knew she was okay because, you know, my stomach still felt hard and stuff like that, which I don't know, you know, if that's even a sign or something. I just knew, you know, I knew that she was okay, but I just still wanted to obviously get checked out. So we get there and they hook me up to the monitor, and of course, as soon as they hook me up, she starts moving. They're probably like, this lady's crazy. But they checked me for amniotic fluid, and that wasn't, like, that came out negative, so it wasn't my amniotic fluid. And then they were like, oh, that was your mucus plug that you lost. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that would make sense. But I thought, like, everyone calls the mucus plug like a bloody show. It wasn't like that at all, so that's why I was confused. So they hooked me up to the monitor, and then they saw, so they have one monitor on your stomach that, like, shows the baby movement and heartbeat, and then another one for your contractions. So they were monitoring me and they noticed that my contractions were actually pretty strong, and I just thought they were Braxton Hicks, but they were actually like labor contractions. If you've ever been in labor, you know, like the numbers, I think they're blue, the blue numbers, they indicate contractions. They were high. They were like anywhere from the high 90s through through the hundreds. So I was contracting, she checks me, and I was at a 1. So this was 34 weeks and 5 days. I was at a 1 centimeter. So she's like, I need you to walk around the hospital for an hour. And I was like, an hour? Like, I've been pregnant for 8 months now, and I have not even walked like a mile, like on purpose. Like, I've not exercised through my entire pregnancy. So I'm like, okay. So we walk around, me and Joel walk around this floor. This loop we did was like 26 seconds long. So we walked that probably 100 times within the hour. I remember at one point I looked at him, I'm like, I gotta pee, like, we're going to the bathroom. I need to take a break. So we did. We get back. she texts me and she's like, you're at a 2. So she's like, you're progressing. You progress a centimeter in an hour. Like, this is probably preterm labor. We need to try and stop this, like, now. They did not, anything before 36 weeks, I'm pretty sure they try to stop once you're 36 weeks and on, you know, you'll probably most likely be okay. So they came in, a doctor came in, they were like, okay, if you deliver today, like, your baby's most likely gonna have to go to NICU, like, her lungs probably aren't gonna be developed, she might have some trouble breathing. So I'm starting to get scared. I'm like, I don't wanna have her today. Like, pretty sure her nursery wasn't even done. I'm like, I don't wanna have her today. Please try to stop this. So they gave me a shot. So they admitted me. They gave me a shot in my butt, which hurt so bad. That hurt so bad. And then they gave me medicine that was gonna stop the contractions. So we got there probably around 10 in the morning, I'd say. We were there Thursday at 10 until Friday at like 2 in the afternoon. So we were there for over 24 hours. They gave me medicine. I think they gave me 2 kinds of medicines. And during the night, I remember they came in and something was beeping. And they were like, your heart rate, your pressure is going down. So we're gonna have to take you off this medicine and give you something else. So they gave me something else. At this point, my contractions were, I think they were fine. I think they had stopped. By the morning, they were gone. My cervix was still at a 2, so I did not progress any further. They were like, okay, you should be good to go home. So I asked them, like, do I have to be like on bed rest? Like, should I take it easy? When do you think she's gonna come? They're like, you don't have to go on bed rest. You should be fine, but you could come back tonight and give birth, or you can come back in 2 weeks from now. Like, we don't know. So basically, we got sent home with the idea of, okay, this baby's coming within 2 weeks. Like, we need to get our butt into gear. We need to prepare, because at this point, we should have technically had like 5 weeks, maybe even 6 before she came, but we had 2. And they were exactly right. 2 weeks later, well, 2 weeks and like 3 days later. It was 10 o'clock at night, September 23rd. I was laying in bed watching Cupcake Wars like I always did. I turn it off. I go to my side, and not even like 20 seconds later, all of a sudden I hear this pop, and then I feel a gush of water come out, which it was water. I didn't know it was water at first, but I felt, you know, stuff just come out. So I'm laying there and I'm like looking around and I'm like, did anybody see that? Like, did anybody just hear what happened? What is going on? So I call for Joel, which he's out in the living room playing Xbox. He has headphones on. And I'm like, Joel! And he's like, he answered, I'm playing Fortnite, like, give me a minute. And I'm like, Joel! And he's like, Car, I'm in 20th, like, give me a minute, I'm playing Xbox. And all of a sudden, like, he wasn't mean, he was just, you know, talking back. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, Joel, I think my water broke. And all of a sudden, I hear, like, the remote go flying. He comes jumping over the couch, running into the room, you know, this crazy. And I'm like, and he's like, what? I'm like, I think my water broke. I'm like, I need you to check. And so he lifts open the covers, and he's like, I don't see anything. I just see, like, a huge wet spot. And I'm like, well, that's probably my water, as long as it's not, you know, blood or anything. Like, that's probably my water. So he's like, can you get up? Can you stand up? So I stand up, and all of a sudden it just starts gushing. I look at him, I'm like, holy crap. Like, this is real, this is happening. But let me call my mom first and make sure. So I call her, she's sleeping, my dad answers. He's like, hello? I'm like, Dad, I need Mom. And he's like, Mom's sleeping. He's like, can I help you? And I'm like, no, you can't help me, I need Mom. He's like, why? I'm like, Dad, give me Mom. He puts it on speakerphone. And Mom answers, she's like, hey, sweetie, like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I think my water broke. And she didn't really say anything, because I think she thought I was kidding, because she did have a dream a few weeks before this. She was like, I had a dream that I woke up on September 23rd and I was like panicking because you were going into labor and I wasn't there. And I was like, that's not gonna happen. That's like 3 weeks before I'm supposed to give birth. Yeah, right, wrong. So I'm described to her what happened. Like, I heard this pop, it started gushing. She's like, okay, yeah, your water's broke. So at this point, in doctor's appointments, they told us, like, as soon as your water breaks, get to the hospital. Like, we don't like to mess around. We don't want you to labor at home while your water's broken, because you're open down there. You know, you're prone to infection. So I'm like walking around the room trying to pack my bag, because I didn't have it packed. Joel had his packed, Ev had hers packed, I didn't have mine packed, which was a terrible idea. So I was just throwing like nursing pads and all my creams and, nursing bras and stuff like that. Totally forgot to put clothes in there because Joel had to go to Walmart and buy me clothes to come home in. We get in the car and Joel's like frantic, like freaking out, and I'm like, dude, chill. Like, I'm not even contracting. I don't even know what's going on, because you see in the movies, like, when their water breaks, they're like hunched over, they're like, oh my god, it hurts so bad, like the baby is coming, like they're screaming, like they're about to pop out a baby in the car, and I'm just sitting here like, hey, can we stop at Sheetz on the way and get something to eat? Like, I'm starving. We didn't though, because Joel, we needed to get to the hospital. So like I said, we get there in about 30 minutes, which is a 40-minute drive. We get there in 30. So this is probably at 11 we got to the hospital. So we go in, call, they let us in. When we get into the triage room, we had 2 young nurses. The one nurse actually helped me deliver, which she was amazing. She was my favorite nurse ever. So they're like, change into this gown. So Joel and I are just laughing hysterical because I'm trying to change into this gown as my stomach is huge, as I'm pouring out water, it's going everywhere. So we're hysterically laughing. He's like cracking jokes, making me laugh even more, and that's making my water come out even more. So they come back like 10 minutes later, I'm still not in this gown. And they're like, okay, like, put this gown on, like, we need to get things going. So I put the gown on, and they come back in, and she steps in my water, and she looks down, and she's like, oh my god, there's water everywhere. They come back with like huge towels to clean it up. I'm like, this is so embarrassing. So I'm in the bed, and they put the monitor on. Everything looks good, and I had started contracting at this point. So my contractions, were showing, and I was contracting every few minutes at this point. The doctor comes in, and if you see me looking down, I have the monitor right here, so I'm watching, I have sleep. But she comes in, she checks me, she's like, you're at, I think she said I'm at a 3. Yeah, I'm at a 3. So they had asked, I think you have to be at a 4 to have an epidural, I think. I'm not 100% sure. But they were like, do you want any pain medication right now? And I was like, no, like, I'm fine. My contractions were there, but I could talk through them. I could, move and walk, and I didn't. I knew I wasn't going to get the epidural, like, right when I hit 4 centimeters, so I thought. But, because once you get the epidural, you're stuck in bed. And I was told the more you move around, the more you walk, and you're active, the faster your labor will be. So we get into our room, and it's probably at this point 12:30, and I look at Joel, I'm like, I don't know when this baby's coming, but you've been up, I've been up, like, you should try to get some sleep at least. I'm too excited to go to sleep. Like, I'm gonna bounce around on this ball over there. So he lays down. I'm like, I'm fine. You should get some sleep. So he goes to sleep. I'm bouncing on my ball. My parents were on their way. They had about a 4-hour trip. So at this point, they were probably an hour and a half to 2 hours in. So I knew I still had about 2, anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours before they got there. So they get there probably at 2 now, 2 or 3. And my mom comes in, and my dad, he's there too. And I'm like, okay, Dad, why don't you and Joel just hang in the room, sleep, do whatever, and me and Mom are gonna go walk around. So we went and walked around for about an hour and a half. This is when my contractions started really picking up. I still didn't want the epidural. I did ask for pain medication, so they did give me some kind of pain medication. And then I went and got into the jacuzzi. They had a huge jacuzzi that you could labor in. So we go in there, and I labored in there for probably an hour, maybe to an hour and a half. So at this point, it's probably 6 o'clock in the morning. So this would be Monday morning, the 24th. So I get out of the bathtub, and we go back into my room. At this point, it's 6 o'clock probably. And they come back in, and they give me another pain medication, because the pain medication I took before was not doing anything. Like, I was feeling everything. It did not even take the edge off a little bit. So we get back in the room, they give me that medication, and I'm laying down. So probably about 7:30, they come in. At this point, the nurses do like the 7 to 7 shift, and the doctors. So she came in, a new doctor, and she was like, all right, I'm so-and-so, I'm going to check you. At this point, it's probably 7:30. I've been laboring now for close to 9 hours. So she checks me, and she's like, you're at a 4, you can get the epidural if you want. And I'm like, okay. So I think about it, and at this point, I'm 9 hours into labor. Got there at 11, so they checked me at 11, and I was at a 3. Now it's 9 hours later, and I'm only at a 4. And I was like, oh heck no, this is going by way too slow. Yes, give me the epidural, please. So everyone has to leave the room. I get the epidural. Which, side note, the epidural did not hurt at all. If you're pregnant and you're scared to get the epidural, like, I promise you, it does not hurt. I don't know if it was just me. Actually, no, because I've talked to a lot of people, and, you know, chances are you're contracting during it, so it just, you know, cancels each other out. It doesn't really hurt. You're way more focused on the contraction, trying to breathe through it. And by the time they do it, I mean, it's definitely uncomfortable, but it's not like, oh my God, this hurts so bad at all. So everyone had to leave me. I got that done. As she does it, she looks at, you know, she's looking, and she's like, your one vein, like, splits. It only splits to the left. Like, it doesn't really go to the right. She's like, we might have to redo this. She's like, I'm going to give you a half hour, lay down, and see if it works. She comes back, and I'm like, it's working on the one side, and it's not working on the other side. So she puts me on my right side, and she's like, tip this way, and maybe that'll, you know, lead the medication to this side. She puts me on my right side, and, you know, that's working. Like, I'm laying on my right side, and I can slowly start to feel me go numb. So she was like, okay, so I'm not gonna have to redo it. And I was like, yeah, it's working. You know, at this point, I couldn't feel anything. So after I get the epidural, and, you know, it's working, I'm feeling good. One of the nurses comes in, just checking me, checking the monitors, and she sees that she's moving around a lot. She's like, oh, can I feel your belly? And I was like, yeah, of course. So she puts her hand on my stomach, and she starts feeling around. And she's feeling, and, you know, I'm just laying there, like, getting a belly massage. She's like, I think your baby's posterior. And I, like, looked at her. I was like, what does that mean? And she's like, it just means that she's, you know, instead of up, she's down. Which is not like her head was up here and her leg. It wasn't like she was flipped. She was just, you know, flipped over. And I was like, well, is that okay? She's like, yeah, it's fine. You know, we see that a few times. Like, we see that every once in a while. So you should be fine. And I was like, okay, you know, didn't think anything of it. You're a nurse. You're telling me I'm fine. You know, I'm probably going to be fine. So that happens. And then, so at this point, I was, you know, 4 centimeters dilated. And I wasn't, my face, when you're effaced, it's supposed to progress. And I wasn't progressing with that. I was still stuck at like a 70% effaced. So at this point, you know, I'm laying with a peanut ball to try to get her to move down further. She was, like, my cervix was obviously, but you need that pressure of her head to thin it out and to really open it up. So at this point, you know, my legs are numb, and they come in and they're like, we want you to get on all fours in your bed, like flip around, and we're going to give you a ball. So basically, I'm on like all fours, and there's a ball right here, and I'm hugging it, and I'm supposed to be rocking to try to get her to move down further. So they have me do this for a half hour. Meanwhile, my legs are completely numb. I can't feel them. I can't hold myself up. I was able to put all my pressure on the ball for about 10 minutes, and then I had to have either my mom and Joel or Joel and his mom hold me up so that I was able to continue on with it. I probably did this for 4 to 5 times throughout the rest of my labor. So they have a little book with everything written down. So at 2:31, they come in and they check me again. And at this point, we're creeping up on the 20-hour mark. This hospital that I was in does not like your water to be broken for more than 20 hours. You know, they start to get, you know, not worried, but C-section starts to come into place. Like, they start talking about C-section. So they were like, you know, we really don't want your water to be broken more than 20 hours, but no more than 24 hours. Like, 24 hours is our absolute max. Like, we'll give you a C-section if your water's broken for that long. So they come in at 2:31. I was at a 7 centimeters dilated. So they were like, okay, well, 7 o'clock at night is the 20-hour mark. So they were like, okay, you're at 7, so 3 more to go. So that was fine. They checked me at 7. So I labor for a few more hours, come back in about 2 hours later, and they checked me again. You're not really supposed to get checked too many times when you're in labor, just because, you know, you're prone to infection. But because I was coming up on that 20-hour mark of my water being broken, they needed to keep checking me to see what was going on, if I was progressing. So she comes in around 5 o'clock, so about a little over 2 hours after she checks me when I was at a 7. And she comes back in and I was still at a 7. So they're like, we need to give you Pitocin to get this, you know, speeding up. If you don't know what Pitocin is, it's just a medication that helps your labor progress faster. So they give me that at 5, and they come back in around 7 when I'm, you know, due for, you know, this is the 20-hour mark. Like, I come back in and I was at an 8. So they're like, okay, you're progressing, but we know we're not going to give you a C-section, but we have to give you this medication. So they gave me medication to hopefully, you know, prevent any infections that could happen at this point. So they gave me this medicine, and the doctor comes in and she's like, you know, we have to give you this medicine every 4 hours after this, but at the 24-hour mark, that's it. Like, if you're not pushing at that point or anything, we are going to give you, we'll probably, you know, we'll talk about C-section, which I was fine with having a C-section, honestly, at this point. Let me back up a little bit. I totally forgot this part. So I got the epidural at 8:13 in the morning, and it worked for probably, I'll say, it probably worked for 4 to 5 hours. So it probably worked for, you know, 4 to 5 hours. So when they checked me at 2:31 and I was at a 7, this is when the right side started to fade off. And at this point, I was not able to get it redone again. So they gave me like an IV type thing that I had a button to press, and that was giving me, you know, the numbness that I needed on this side. So I was able to press this button every 15 minutes. So fast forward back to 5:12, they gave me Pitocin, I was at an 8. They came back at 5:12, they gave me Pitocin, and I was at a 7. They came back at around 7 o'clock, and I was at an 8, and they gave me that medication, and then they gave me a second round of Pitocin, like a second round, so that it could help speed it up even more. So at 8 o'clock, you know, they keep coming in, I'm doing the peanut ball, I'm doing that ball, I'm trying to get her head down, and as they're coming in, they're like, you know, do you feel the need to push? Like, do you have any pressure in your lower back? And I'm like, no, you know, and at this point, I'm like, if I'm not feeling this, then I'm not gonna be ready to push. So at this point, I'm like trying to convince myself that, hey, maybe you are feeling this pressure that they're talking about, but in reality, I was not feeling it at all. So they kept coming in, asking me that, you know, like having me push down, like on the ball and stuff, to try to see if I felt any pressure, and I wasn't feeling anything. So she comes back in, the doctor that I delivered with comes in at around probably 9:30 to 9:45. And she checks me, and I'm at a 10, finally. So almost 24 hours into labor, I'm finally ready to start pushing. But I was, you know, when she told me that, she's like, hey, we're gonna start pushing. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I like, you know, thought about it, and I was like, but I don't feel the urge to push. Like, usually when, you know, I watch like vlogs, birth vlogs on YouTube and stuff like that, like the woman's always like I'm ready to push, like I feel it coming, like, you know, let's start pushing. And I'm just sitting here like, can I finish my episode on TV that I'm watching? Like, I'm not ready to push yet. Like, I was scared. I was honestly really scared to start pushing a baby out that I didn't feel the urge or the need to push right now. So she leaves, and at this point she sits down and she's like, we have an hour to get this baby out. If not, we have to stop. I have to give you that medication. We have to maybe have a C-section. So she's like, you have an hour to get, a little over an hour to get this baby out. At 9:45, I start doing practice pushings with the nurse, and at this point you can see Ev's head. So you can see her head every time I push. You can, you know, it's there, you can see it. So she's like, okay, like you're close. Like, this is actually probably gonna go by fast since she's right there. She looks like she's ready to come out. So the doctor hurry ups and comes in, and I start pushing, and my mom and Joel are holding my legs, and they're both like, and the nurses, every time I push, she's like, she's right there, you know, just push harder, just push harder. So I'm pushing as hard as I can. And side note, this was 10 o'clock at night, so I've now been in the hospital for almost 24 hours. My water's been broken. I've been in active labor for 24 hours. And since I went into labor at 10 o'clock Sunday night, I have been up all day Sunday. So at this point, I'm up for like, it's now Monday night. I've been up for almost, you know, 40 some hours. I have nothing to eat. I've had nothing to drink. I have no energy, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, if this baby does not come out soon, like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to push. Like, I'm exhausted already, and I'm probably 20 minutes into pushing. So at this point, the doctor goes and gets a mirror. She puts it in front of me. She's like, I want you to watch, and when I tell you to push, when you see her head start to come out, push as hard as you can. So we do that. 20 minutes go by, I'm pushing, and at this point I'm not able to press my button because, you know, I'm pushing and I wasn't allowed to push my button. So I think I was allowed to up until, you know, things started to really, you know, I needed to keep pushing. I didn't have time. I wasn't allowed to push the button. So at this point, it's wore off. I can feel everything on my right side. So she leaves again. So this is probably at 10:30. So I've been pushing for a little over a half hour. And she comes back with a rope. And this lady meant business. She's like, we have 30 minutes to get this baby out unless we have to stop, give you medicine, wait, like, we need to get this baby out. And come to, like, fast forward just a little bit, just so this makes more sense. She wasn't able to give me the medicine at 11 because of what was happening with Ev. She was stuck. So she wasn't able to stop at all. Like, I had to keep pushing. So at this point, we don't know that, obviously, because it's only 10:30. So she comes back with this rope. And I look at Joel, I'm like, she's gonna make me play tug of war, isn't she? And he was like, I think so. And I was like, oh, this is gonna suck so bad. I'm already so tired. How am I supposed to play tug of war? She does. She holds the one side of the rope and I hold it. And as I'm pushing, I'm supposed to pull it, like, literally out of her hands. So we do that. And we're doing that for, you know, 20 minutes. And, you know, the nurses are like, you know, stay calm. Just, you got this, you got this. They were super supportive in the whole thing. And same with my mom and Joel's mom and Joel. So at this point, you know, they were giving me medicine for the infection. They were giving me medicine for the contractions and the pain. And, you know, I was just on the Pitocin. I was on all kinds of medicine. And before I go into this next part, I can truly say I do not remember much from 11, because from 11 to 12 till 11:58 when she was born, I'm not lying, I'm not exaggerating, I'm not being dramatic, I truly do not remember much of it at all. Because I was in so much pain, I was exhausted, I was dying of thirst, I was on so much medication that at this point I was pushing. I knew something was wrong because the doctor, you know, before when I was pushing, I was able to, you know, wait out a contraction and, like, kind of breathe and relax, and I would go into the next one. At this point, I'm pushing and I'm pushing and I'm pushing. Like, I'm not even waiting in between contractions now. And so I'm not even allowed to wait in between, like, a contraction. Every single contraction, I was pushing. So at this point, you know, after the whole fact, my mom and Joel and the doctors, everyone was telling me, they're like, you were falling asleep in between pushes and contractions. You were literally passing out. We would have to wake you up to start pushing again. And that is completely true. Like, I don't remember anything. Like, I do not remember much until, like, the last few minutes of me pushing her out. This whole time pushing was a complete blur. So I'm still doing the tug of war, and at this point, it's an hour in. It's 11 o'clock. And, you know, things start, you know, getting serious. You know, nurses start coming in. And basically, Ev was stuck in my birth canal. She was stuck. Her head was stuck in this one spot, and I was not able to, you know, push it out as fast as I should have been able to. So we're still doing the tug of war, and at this point, you know, we're doing this for another half hour, and I think the doctor started to get, not nervous, but, you know, I wasn't progressing anything. So, you know, she was telling me, she's like, we gotta get this baby out. Like, we have to get this baby out right away. Like, she's stuck. They didn't tell me that she was stuck, but I knew that she was stuck because obviously I've been pushing for an hour and a half now, and her head was still in the same position. But at this point, Ev's head starts to come out. Like, half of her head is out of me. She's stuck, and I'm, you know, they're telling me to push, and I'm pushing, and I'm screaming, and I'm pretty much crying. Like, I'm, like, telling them, I'm looking at them, I'm like, I can't do this anymore. Like, what is happening? Why isn't she coming out? And, you know, the one they were like, she's a little stuck, like we need you to keep pushing, like push as hard as you can. So, you know, I feel like the pressure and I feel her right there. Her's like, okay, I need you to push, like push. And I push and I see her and she's pulling the baby out. And as she's pulling the baby out, her head was stuck, you know, inside of me for a really long time. So as she's stuck, she's pulling the head out and I'm watching her bring her out. And I just see her head is all like shaped weird. She's gray, she's purple, and I close my eyes when she comes out and I'm finally like, I did it, like she's out. Like, thank God this is over. Here, so I open up my eyes and then it like dawns on me. I'm like, wait, she's been out and why isn't she crying? So I look at Joel and I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, she's okay, I saw her move, like she moved her arm, I saw her move her arm, she's okay. So I'm lying there and I open up my eyes. I look around, I process what's going on, I see everybody, and then I see the doctor right in front of me, and the one nurse who was really good to me was trying to distract me. She was literally right in my, like, she's like, look at me, like you did so good, just look at me, you did so good. And I look at the doctor, and she has Ev out, and Ev is completely gray. She's purple, and she starts pumping on her chest. Like, I see her pumping on her chest, and I'm like thinking in my head, I was like, oh, this is not good. Like, something's seriously wrong with her. And my mom's over here, and she's like screaming at the doctor. She's like, why isn't she crying? Why isn't she crying? She actually had to leave the room because she was freaking out. She was freaking me out. So, you know, Joel's over here. He's like, she's fine. Like, you know, she's fine. I saw her move. The nurse is over here. She's like, you did so good. Like, you should be so proud of yourself. You did so good. And so they take Ev away, and the doctor, you know, gets her going. They take her away. They had like a little NICU type thing set up in our room that had like oxygen and just like all kinds of just things that they were doing to her. They were getting, you know, like the fluid out of her mouth. You know, the one nurse came over. She's like, your baby is okay. She's just having trouble breathing. You know, she's just having trouble, you know, getting air and stuff like that. So that made me feel not 100% better, but I knew that, you know, they didn't take her out of the room. So I knew that she was probably okay. But I was still freaking out, obviously. I was a hot mess. And so the doctor looks at me, you know, they get her going. We hear like her, you know, we hear little noises, and the doctor looks at me. She was like, it's time to get your placenta out. And I'm like looking around like, what? And she's like, but you just had a really hard labor, so I'm not gonna make you push this out. I'm just gonna go inside and grab it and pull it out. And I was like, okay, like I didn't even know pushing out a placenta was a thing. I honestly thought it came out with the baby. You should probably go to classes. Like, we didn't do that. You should probably go to classes so you can, you know, figure these things out. But she takes out my placenta, and you know, she checks me for like cuts and stuff like that. Many stitches. At this point it's probably 15 minutes that goes by. You know, she wasn't able to come out and be put on my chest. Like, I took her right away. Joel wasn't able to cut the cord. So they bring her, they're bringing her over there. They're working on her. You know, my mom's outside the room. You know, I'm getting my placenta taken out. And then the one nurse comes over. She's like, Carly, would you like to hold your baby? It's like, yes, finally. Like, this is what I've been waiting for. Like, please give me my baby. So they bring her over. My mom comes back in. Joel's mom's over there. Joel's over there. So they come back in. They put her on my chest, and then all was good. Seriously, you guys, after that, I was like, I don't even care what I just went through, what we just went through. Like, she's fine, she's here, she's on my chest, she's breathing, you know, she's crying. So that was the scariest, most hard but rewarding experience of my life. Like, you know, after they put her on my chest, like, you truly just forget everything that you just went through. Like, everything that just happened, you're just like, I don't even care about it anymore. You know, I got this little baby, she's here, she's finally here, and all is good. So that was my labor and delivery story. Evelyn was born at 11:58 Monday, September 24th, 11:58 p.m. She weighed 6 pounds, 14 ounces. You know, when she came out, she had that cone head really bad. She was 19 and a half inches, but her cone head was like 2 inches. So really she was like 17 and a half inches. She was so teeny tiny and perfect, and we love her so much. She's almost 8 months old now, so time has literally flown by. But yeah, that is my labor and delivery story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have a similar story, definitely let me know. If anything, you know, if you have any questions or comments, let me know. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one.